Hello, friends. Big game, first game, and it has ended 1-0 to Arsenal. An away win. You got the 3 points, and you're probably not going to think about this again unless it all unfolds. But there are 5 things, there might be more, we'll see, but it's a nice title. 5 things that I learnt from this game. We're going to break it down briefly here, and then there will be a deeper dive on Man United in particular tomorrow on the JLA channel. But, I thought it was a good game for both, but it was also a bad game for both in the sense that obviously Man United didn't get the victory, but had a really solid performance. Arsenal got the win. That's what champions do, and we can come back to that. But there was, as I said, there were more questions than answers, I think, when it comes to Arsenal, and it wasn't the most purring start. I think they would have liked to have come slap Man United, but it did feel like a different Man United. Now, I want to touch on the team here, and when it comes to the 5 things, first person I want to touch on is Mason Mount. I thought Mason Mount was really, really exciting, and it's so good to see. And maybe I'm just kind of rooting for him, but I've definitely seen it in pre-season. He's obviously been used in a more attacking role, and you kind of thought he was going to be that central striker in this game. He actually turns out that he wasn't. And if I go back to it, I'll show you the average positions of Man United in particular. Let me show you that, because this is the starting lineup. But Mason Mount ended up not really playing in that role. It's all a bit spread out here. But Mason Mount, we thought was going to be one of those false nines, which he had been previously. But I just think he's just got himself back. He's obviously fit. He's firing. He's a very intelligent player. And in terms of the runners that you have in this team, in the first, I wrote it down, the first 9 minutes of the game, there were 14 long balls. And that doesn't maybe sound like too many, but actually it was, as the game progressed, it went on and on and on. And I think there were about 60 long balls from Man United at the end of it. Arsenal were just as bad, but it's because this team has runners all of a sudden. And Mason Mount is a bit of a hybrid of both. And although he's not a central striker for this team, he is an asset. He's a real undercover asset. And as I go through these things that I've learned here, I think we've learned that Mason Mount is someone that needs to get minutes this season. Is it going to be okay for him to be on the bench? Or when we're thinking about these new signings and being excited about those, will the rotation need to occur as well? Because he has absolutely not let you down. You know he's got the intelligence to play the way Amorim wants to play, which is an intelligent sort of way of playing the game. But how do you fit this team together with Mason Mount in it and Benjamin Sesko in this team as well, and Cunha and Mbeumo as well? But I thought Mason Mount was really, really good in this game. Of course, he was the guy to come off for Sesko, and that was the right move. And I think we've saw the new Man United here. But Mason Mount is not to be slept on. And what are you going to do if he's just too good to drop? Has Amorim got it in him? I think he has. I think he's been pretty ruthless up to now. But I feel like there needs to be a place for Mason Mount. 30 minutes at the end of it is going to mean that he's going to lose momentum a little bit. And it's not about him, it's about the team. Of course it is when it comes to Man United. But I wanted to touch on him. I thought he was really, really good in this one. Obviously, a lot of new signings in this game. And by the way, this is the JLA Tactics board. There is a link in the description. If you want to get your hands on this, you can use it for free. There's also the advanced program, which means all the bells and whistles that I've got, you can have as well. And you can do tactical stuff on footage. It's absolutely fantastic. Links in the description. Oh, and also, if you like the Fallout, which is an old series that we had on the channel, we've got it on the JLA SUBSTACK. There's going to be loads of exclusive content on there. I'm going to be doing a one-to-one sort of kind of creator advice thing as well, kind of Allcott unfiltered video stream pretty soon as well as loads of other exclusive bits and pieces and some stunning articles. So if you want to get on the JLA SUBSTACK, absolutely go and do that. Back to this, Gyökeres. Let's talk about him, because I think he'll get heat. Now, of course he's going to get heat, and he kind of, that's, it's part of it. It's part of the fun, especially as a central striker. I've got to be honest, I thought he didn't do a huge amount wrong. He was that battering ram for the team at times. I thought he had a real battle between De Ligt and Gyökeres, and there were a few of those kind of matchups throughout the game with different players. I thought these two had a bit of a matchup. De Ligt and Gyökeres definitely had a matchup as well. Shaw and Saka. Yoro and Martinelli, maybe a little bit less so, because Martinelli just did not get involved as much as you would have liked him to. But Gyökeres, I thought he was trying, but Arsenal was so poor from an attacking point of view that they couldn't really get themselves moving. I thought it was a real tricky day. And about 20 minutes into the game, I reckon Zubimendi would have been going, what have I got myself in for here? And that is another question for you guys. That's what this channel's about. It's about conversation. How do you feel this season's going to go? I think most of the games I'm seeing at the moment, it is end to end. The verticality that has not been in football feels like it's now one that everyone's kind of leaning back into. And for someone like Zubimendi, there are going to be moments where I guess it's going to pull up possible weaknesses that he has, especially for a team like Arsenal that want to be able to just kind of control the game, and he'd come in to be that controller. There were some lovely moments where he was able to get the ball, and instead of just rotating and bringing the ball backwards, he was playing it and punching it forward to Odegaard straight away. I thought that was really, really nice to see. And he kind of found his feet as the game progressed. But Arsenal struggled for control in this game. Really, really struggled. I think they had to rely on another thing that we learned here, that if this team's going to win the league, it's going to be because of these two. And that means that you can have a set piece and win the game, essentially, from that. Like a 1-0, one goal is going to be enough for this Arsenal team. And that's the question when we talk about winning the league for Arsenal. There's a lot of feeling around now or never. When it comes to Arsenal versus Liverpool, Man City obviously look very, very good. Liverpool are obviously going to score more goals than Arsenal, but they are going to concede more as well. And yeah, we'll come back to the questions of Arsenal in a second. But yes, the attack was very, very disappointing. Very disappointing, I thought. And pulls at the kind of doubts that you naturally would have as an Arsenal fan. But I think you can kind of push it down, I think, today because you've got the win. And that's all that matters. But from an attacking point of view, I thought Saka was incredibly quiet. I don't think he got enough service. I thought Odegaard was getting it in better positions. I thought there was moments where, normally we're seeing him here. Sorry, my finger's not working today. But actually, it's because Zubimendi was in the team, you're able to get the ball a bit high, and we saw him loads of times sort of just driving with the ball from that area. But is he good enough to really get his confidence up enough to, when he gets into those positions and the whole team's moving up the pitch, for him to really affect the game a bit more? Got the ball in this area a lot of times and had a couple of nice moments, but it was still a lot of huff and puff for Odegaard, in my opinion. Let's talk about Man United. I thought the changes allowed you to see what the new Man United is. And I think that's something that it's okay to be excited about. I think it's okay. That is something I think we've learned here. This team is going to score goals. I thought Mbeumo had a bad game, personally, in terms of overall output. People won't like me saying that. But the point is that the overall output of this team, all roads led to Mbeumo. We're going to go into a lot more detail on that. And Mbeumo should score a hell of a lot of goals this year. I thought he was let down by different people at different times. But he was always in this area here. And I think that's exactly where he's going to be all year long. Because if he starts wide and then he's going to cut in here to put those lovely crosses in that he can do, but the output was poor. That's why I think he had a poor game for me today. The crosses or the shots, whatever it might be, it wasn't good enough. But the areas that he's getting in, it's two different things. Him in line with this 18-yard box, that's what we're going to see. Because it means from in transition, when there's a ball over the top, we're going to Seshko and then it's going to be a flick on or something like that. Or when Matheus Cunha was playing in this area, it's a similar thing. They were always trying to get the ball to him there. And Burma's going to drive in and get chances from that. Or if he starts wide, he's then going to go into more central areas. But I think we saw the future of Man United in that little period when, before Shaw came off, but more crucially, this forward line. I think this forward line, that is the future. And the pairings that we saw initially and the pairings that we saw afterwards, it's just so much better like this. Because, initially in the first half, although this was a pairing that actually was pretty fruitful, I think, overall, although I think there was no reliance on Mbeumo and maybe Mount and Dorgu being a bit of a pairing there, or actually probably more so Shaw and Dorgu being a pairing there as well, and Mbeumo and Dalot being a pairing. That's what football's about a lot of the time. And I think with this team, when you get to the players that came on, the players went off, you've now got so much more excitement with someone like Diallo and Mbeumo as a pairing. I think Dorgu and Cunha, even like Cunha starting out wide and then going into that space himself, but you've still got that lovely overlap from Dorgu. That is just something that's really, really nice. And that all comes from having that man in Seshko through the middle. And there's going to be other moments when it's about these three. staying narrow, staying together, the width being provided by Dorgu and Diallo. But it looked nice. It had a nice balance to it. I think there are still question marks, and we will talk about that in the JLA video. And there's questions for both teams. But I think another player that needs to be focused on is Matheus Cunha. This lad, I thought he was hiding in plain sight in the first half. There were several instances where he just was not getting the ball when he should have been getting the ball, because the end ball was always Mbeumo. And I think as time progresses, I think you'll start to see that, oh no, actually, let's give it to this lad, because this lad is really, really special. And I think it means that Mbeumo would he'll get the ball and he'll need to finish, instead of having to get the ball and do something. That was the big difference. There were real positives there. Real positives there for Man United. So many. I think, again, going back to that starting lineup, like Shaw when he's fit, lovely. And if you think of it almost like a back four there, he actually just sitting back, but being that left back, he dealt with Saka really, really brilliantly throughout this game, in my opinion. Yoro is just an absolute superstar, isn't he? He's so good. He's so good. As I say, optimism and positives for Man United, it feels like, despite losing the game, which has obviously got to be remembered. The positives and negatives for Arsenal. Arsenal fans, talk to me. How are you feeling about this one? Because, as I say, all the things that could allow you to believe that this Arsenal team could win the league. And I will go to this just quickly. The shot map I thought was really interesting, because, the amount of shots that Man United were able to get inside the box, but the amount of those that were actually on target was a lot less. Maybe another team takes a couple of those chances. I don't know. I think the glaring, scary thing for Arsenal is the amount of chances that they're having inside the opposition's box. But maybe it's just one of those ones where you go, this is a good away performance against a Man United team that is actually going to be miles better than the Man United side we saw last year. I think that is probably the truth. But my concerns over Arsenal was, okay, Zubmed's going to punch the ball forward, but then is there going to be enough quality in those half spaces? Those concerns still remain. But in Gabriel and Saliba, you've got two players that I think can deal with most players in this league, maybe barring Liverpool and Man City. And if they're going to beat the rest of the teams 1-0 here, there and everywhere, it's maybe one that, it's not worth worrying about it. But I would imagine that Arsenal fans will be going home going, I know we won, but I'm not sure about that. I definitely don't think you need to go at Gyökeres. I thought he had he was running the channels, having a real battle, and he didn't have much support around him. So that needs to be better, needs to be more fluent. But it was a Man United team that was up for it. The energy was there. Casemiro had one of those days where actually I think he actually maybe got a touch luckier than... and on another day, he might get actually a little bit undone with some of the moments. There's a moment where Odegaard's got the ball and he's driving, and Casemiro looks like he's made this unbelievable challenge. But actually, in my opinion, Odegaard's got to be better in that moment. But overall, did okay. But with Ugarte coming on, is he the future? Is it him and Bruno Fernandes? We happy with the substitutes? One of my mates who works with me, he was saying that, would it have been better to have Mainu coming on in that game? Would it have changed the game? And yeah, ultimately, you've not been able to get yourselves a goal. But it feels like there are goals in this team. Next game, huge for Man United. So yeah, we got a new Man United, and I think you can be excited about it. Tentatively, of course. Obviously, injuries are going to be crucial, and you want everyone fit. But that was so much better for Arsenal. The bench, I said, look, Madueke and Havertz coming on. That's something that bench looks so much stronger than it did last season. But when they came on, did very, very little. From an attacking point of view, it's got to be miles better, especially when you are going to be away from home and maybe the opposition are having a moment. Can you be that bit more ruthless, a bit more clinical? Because even someone like Saka and Martinelli, two key players for this team, I thought they struggled today. And that's down to Man United playing really well. But it was an off-colour Arsenal today. How are you feeling about it? Let me know. Be a part of the JLA Substack. Links in the description. Get yourself the tactics board if you're a coach or if you're a content creator or if you just love your FPL team or wherever it might be. And make sure you join me on the JLA channel for a tactical breakdown on Man United, having a look at this game. Cheers. Goodbye. I'm about to press the button to stop recording. It's an instant reaction, so these things can be a little bit more clunky. Goodbye.